It's time for Best Value presented by DraftKings. We go through a lineup and try to figure out the guys who could give you the most bang for your DFS buck in week 4. Starting at the quarterback position, we talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick as a streaming option, and so it makes plenty of sense, Florio, that is where you decided to go this week.
Yeah, at only 5,400, I think he's a really good value. Like we were talking about earlier, the Seahawks allow the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks, the most passing yards per game to the position, and Ryan Fitzpatrick can potentially pick up some points with his legs. We saw him score a rushing touchdown last week. I think this is a game where he's going to have to throw a lot if they're chasing points, trying to keep up with Russell Wilson in that offense. So I think he has a sky-high upside this week, and I like him a lot as a value.
I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford this week, and I think it's because the Lions haven't really figured out how to run the football effectively. I know Adrian Peterson has been, I think, better than anticipated, but I still don't think they can survive on feeding him the football and letting him do his thing. This is not, this is not 2010, 2011 where he was that dude. The Saints also really struggled against Derek Carr. I mean, they got carved up by the Raiders on Monday night not that long ago. So I think Matthew Stafford has a chance to go out there, spread the ball around, whether it's Golladay, Jones, TJ Hawkinson, and maybe do some things this week. At running back, we seem to have settled on a Rams running back, at least for the short term, right?
I think so. Like Darrell Henderson has gone out and put up 120 yards and a touchdown in the last 2 games, 19 fantasy points or more in both of them. And his price is still only 5,800. I feel like if this was Cam Akers having this kind of success, we'd be talking about him a lot more because that's who everyone was excited about coming into the year. But Henderson is getting the job done. I mean, the Rams are running the ball more than any team in the NFL right now this year, and they're playing the Giants, who, I mean, let's just face it, they're having a rough go right now. This could be a game that the Rams are playing with a multiple score lead throughout, which means we could see a lot of Henderson running the ball in that second half. So I think he has a really, really high ceiling this week.
It's funny because this is the Darrell Henderson that everyone was predicting last year. He was the reason that Todd Gurley was getting bumped down draft boards and everybody was sort of talking up Darrell Henderson, and it didn't happen. And so it's almost because, it didn't happen last year, so everybody's like, well, that's it. It's done. You had one chance and it's over. And we've moved on to Cam Akers. But Darrell Henderson is flashing pretty well right now. So I talked about Kenyon Drake. And I'm going to put my fake money where my mouth is and say that this is the week that Kenyon Drake gets it going against the Carolina Panthers. I do feel like his DraftKings salary down to $6,000. I feel like it kind of got bumped down because we haven't seen much from Kenyon Drake so far this season. So maybe that works to your benefit if you're putting together a lineup. You're going to get a guy that potentially gets a lot of touches against a bad run defense, and it'll allow you to fit some other maybe more higher salary guys elsewhere in your lineup. Again, if it doesn't happen for Kenyon Drake this week, then I think we start to press the panic button, but this is an opportunity maybe to take advantage of a guy at sort of a depressed salary. Over to wide receiver. We talked about you going with Ryan Fitzpatrick, so you're going with a stack here to try to double up, huh?
Yeah, I think I would definitely be trying to get Ryan Fitzpatrick, number 1 wide receiver, Devontae Parker in my lineup if I'm using Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. I keep talking about how the Seahawks have just been carved up through the air this year. They're allowing over 78 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position this year. No other team is even allowing 50. So it just shows you how great of a matchup Seattle has been this year for wide receivers. Parker continues to be the top pass catching option for Fitzpatrick on this Dolphins defense. And if you had concerns about his hamstring, I think it is helpful that they played last week on Thursday, so he gets, an extra 3 days to recover.
Yeah, I think I like Parker this week. I like Preston Williams as a deep sleeper. I think in one lineup I put together, I even went with the double stack of Fitzpatrick with Parker and Mike Gesicki, just because, look, man, the Seahawks secondary, it is no longer the Legion of Boom. It's more like the Legion of Whom. So I think it's a chance for you to sort of kind of play on that a little bit for what should be a relatively decent salary. At my wide receiver spot, I'm going with a ceiling play here, and that's Brandon Cooks. I know it's been hard to sort of peg the Texans wide receivers through the first couple of weeks. Will Fuller had that big game in the opener against Kansas City. Since then, it has been sort of hard to pinpoint, but we know Brandon Cooks is a guy that will give you a potentially high ceiling on any given week. I know he's been sort of battling through that quad issue, but he has been able to get out on the field and play. The Vikings secondary has been very vulnerable through the first 3 weeks of the season. We have seen teams really have some big games against them through the air. So I'm going to take the chance, especially with the salary that Cooks is drawing this week, to get him in the lineup and see if maybe I can pad in some other places. Over to tight ends. I keep saying it. The Jimmy Graham jokes are done. Like, at this point, we got to start to buy in, and I'm surprised that the DraftKings salary has not yet caught up for him.
Yeah, after week 1, Marcus, remember we both said he was a mirage, and he's looking very real right now. He leads this team in red zone targets. He has 3 touchdowns through the first 3 weeks already, and last week when Nick Foles came in, he threw to Jimmy Graham more than anyone, 7 times. So I know on paper the Colts matchup looks tough against tight ends. They're allowing the second fewest points to the position, but they have played a Jets and Giants offense who aren't really the best right now. So I do think that the matchup may be a little bit more friendly than it looks like on paper, and there's just opportunity there right now with Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, look, the targets have to go somewhere, and the best part is when Nick Foles came in, the target share didn't diminish. In fact, it might have even gone up with Nick Foles versus Mitch Trubisky. I'm going to go Dalton Schultz as my value tight end this week, and we talked about the Cowboys wide receivers. Look, you can't cover all of them, right? The Browns have to figure out where they're going to focus their attention, whether it is going to be on Cooper or Lamb or Gallup or what have you. So that means that there could be some things open for Dalton Schultz. On top of it, tight ends so far this season have eaten the Browns alive. I mean, I know some of it a couple weeks ago. We talked about the Bengals and having to sort of like fill in after CJ Uzomah went down. Some of that was sort of game script related, but Dalton Schultz has shown that he's a part of the game plan there in Dallas, and he could have some opportunities against the Browns this week. Finally, defensively, I felt like, Florio, there just weren't a lot of great matchups in terms of values or whatever defensively. It seems like we're just sort of trying to make the best of what we have out in front of us this week.
Yeah, I went with the Rams, who I believe are the second most expensive defense on DraftKings this week, but I think they're a good value. The Giants, they're coming into the week where second fewest points per game scored this year at just about 13 per game, and then they're in the top 3 in giveaways per game right now. Plus, I experienced firsthand as a Bills fan the wrath of Aaron Donald last week. Good luck stopping that guy. I think the Rams defense can put up a lot of points.
I would agree with that as well. I'm going to go with the 49ers. And again, it's a defense that you're probably going to have to pay up for a little bit. And maybe this group isn't quite as fearsome as they would be if they were completely healthy. But this is still a pretty good defense, as we have seen. And we talked earlier about the Eagles still trying to find themselves offensively, still dealing with a ton of injuries, not having a whole lot of depth at wide receiver. So I'm willing to take the shot on the 49ers, especially when you factor in that Carson Wentz has thrown 2 interceptions in each game he has played this season. The offensive line is struggling to protect him. I'm willing to sort of spend a little bit more here defensively and get a defense I think can put together some play. So there you go. Those are our picks. Hopefully you put together a solid lineup. Happy DFS in week 4 for everybody. That was Best Value, presented by DraftKings. More of the NFL Fantasy Football Show coming up right after this.